Hi, it's Lisa. I'm making this about the Holiday Inn, this review of the Holiday Inn in Glendale. Me and my daughters, for my daughter's birthday, she wanted to see Taylor Swift. It was so much money, but she's such an incredible kid that we juggled it. We made it work, and we're off to Glendale, Arizona to see Taylor Swift, and we're staying at the Holiday Inn. Our road trip was supposed to be 5 hours, turns into 10 hours. We had 2 freeway shutdowns. Anyway, long story short, it takes us forever. We're so exhausted by the time we get there. I had made the reservations on the phone the night before. I was like checking all over. Everything was like so much money. I'm almost like, I'm getting old. Everything's so expensive. Anyway, the lady on the phone, she asked me to become a Holiday Inn member, and I said, sure, sign me up. It was free. She gave me a rate. I told her like my story, and she gave me like, threw in breakfast, and I'm like, yay me, I'm so excited, even though it's a lot of money. So we get to the hotel. Oh, I should point out, when she gave me a confirmation number, I'm like, this for both nights. She's like, oh no, we're booked. It looks booked. We're booked, but I just stay in the room. There's always cancellations. People don't show up. Don't even worry about it. I'm like, are you sure? Should I be concerned? She's like, no, not at all. I'm like, can you go ahead and put this in the notes that we chit-chatted, and it's my daughter's birthday, and there's no concern about me staying an extra night. She's like, sure, no problem. I'm like, okay. I'm like, should I be nervous? She's like, no, not at all. You're good. I'm like, okay, hang up. All right, so anyway, now back to, we're checking into the Holiday Inn. The nice lady at the front desk, she's like very kind, just late at night. She checks us in. I'm like telling her my story about how I can spend the extra night. And she's like, oh, you got a really good rate. And then she's looking online at the rooms, and she's like, you can stay an extra night, but I can't give you that rate. I'm like, what? I'm like, anyway, long story short, she says she could only give me, I could stay in the room for $700 the next night. And I just like, are you kidding me? I'm like, can you do, I'm like, $700 for the Holiday Inn. It's a nice Holiday Inn. Don't get me wrong. It's really nice. It's all updated. It looks new. And I'm like, $700 for the Holiday Inn. And my girls start kind of chuckling, and then she's like, okay. I'm like, can you do any better? She's like, the best I can do is $500. And I go, you can't match the rate that I was given on the phone. She said it was going to be like for the whole time. And she's like, I'm going to go ahead. She's like, don't initial the contract under the $500. Talk to the manager in the morning, and they can do some price adjustments. And I'm like, okay. We proceed upstairs. The phone rings after we proceed upstairs. I go to sleep. I'm like exhausted. The phone rings like 20 minutes later, and I'm just like out of it. And she's like, oh, I'm not sure if you can stay in that room. I don't know. And she's kind of rambling, and we may have to change rooms. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like asleep. I'm tired. I can't do this right now. It's like 1 o'clock. And so I say goodnight to her. And I want to go back before I finish going on with my story. My eye is all red. I don't know if you can see it. We'll probably see this video. Because I was crying so much. I mean, I just thought, wow, gee, I have another medical issue. But no, I think it's because I was crying so much the last couple of days, I broke blood vessels in my eyes. So if one of my eyes looks a little red, well, swollen, I think that's why. Anyway, back to my story. So me and my other daughter go to breakfast the next morning. Everything's fine. My other daughter wants to stay in the room and do some work. We're all good. So after breakfast, my daughter's friend from college is going to visit her. And I just say, hey, I'm going to discuss in the lobby and walk around. I want them to have their own time, their own like get together time. So I'm just like doing nothing and really happy to be doing nothing in the place. Again, quite lovely. So my phone rings. And it's about 11 o'clock, give or take. I think, yeah, about 11-ish. So my phone rings, and my daughter's like, oh my gosh, there's a knock on our door. And we look, and it's house cleaning, and then our phone's ringing, and I'm like, oh, that's really weird. And so I go, okay, no worries. I'm going to go to the front desk and find out what's going on. So I go to the front desk, and there's a woman at the front desk, and I'm like, hi, there's a knock on our door, and our room was called. My girls want to know what's going on. I need to know what's going on. And she just looks at me. I tell her my room number, and she looks at me, and she's like, get out. I'm like, what? She's like, you need to get out. And I'm like, you can't stay both nights. And she's like, the woman told you. I'm like, no, she didn't. And I'm like, this is like crazy. You took my money. We agreed on a rate. I signed the contract. She's like, we refunded your money. You need to get out. And I'm just like, she's so abrupt and so rude and so curt. I could go on and on with the list of, wow. So I'm like, oh. And I'm like, are you the manager? And she's like, no. And I'm like, can I please speak with the manager? I mean, this is just like, I mean, life happens, but it's just like how you handle situations. And she was just so confrontational that I was just like, whew. So she goes to find the manager, and it's been a while, so no one comes back out. So I go into my car, then I go back up to the room, and I'm telling the girls about my story and my daughter's friend, and they're like, wow, that's odd. And I'm like, yeah, I just don't know. The manager didn't, I'm waiting for the manager, maybe they'll call. And then there's a knock on the door, and I look through the peephole, and there's a woman right there. And so I open the door, and there's a woman standing with a man right next to her. And the woman's kind of like in my face. Not to be rude, but like my personal space is not personal. She's just really, and the man next to her, he looks like a bouncer. I mean, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. Like, he's just a big guy, and he's got his arms crossed, and he just really looks like he's like, really just, he just doesn't look pleasant. He just doesn't look happy. Anyway, she's telling me, she's like, you need to get out. You need to leave. And I just was like, no, like, oh, we can transfer you to another hotel. We have a sister hotel, maybe another room. Nothing. Just like, you need to leave now. And I go, I have a contract. And the gentleman's like, get out. You're trespassing. He goes on and on about this trespassing. And they're calling the police if we don't get out. I'm calling the police. And the lady's like, I'm going to call the police if you don't get out. And then my daughter hears all this, and she's hysterical crying. And my other daughter, she's trying to be better, but she starts crying. And her friend's just like, what the heck? And I'm just like, what the heck? So I just say, hey, I have this, like, I signed something. I agreed on both nights' price. And she's just, I'm like, can you go get my contract? And she says, okay. And we wait like 45 minutes, an hour. And my daughter's hysterical at this time. And I'm looking for other hotels. In my whole insides, I'm like, I'm so spent. And I'm so jittery. And I'm trying to remain calm. But I can't. I'm kind of losing it. And inside, but I'm trying to keep it together. So I'm looking online for hotels to look for a plan B. I mean, the concert's only in a few hours. I need a plan B like right now. So I go, I need to figure this out. I tell the girls, don't worry, mom's got this figured out. You can have a great birthday. It's going to be so much fun. And inside I'm like going, and then my daughter's killing the vibe. And then it really was a downer. So I go downstairs and I tell the girl at the desk, the one who told me to get out. Now I'm upset. I'm like, I need your name. And she tells me her name. I believe it was Ayana. And I said, what was the name of the manager that came up to my room? And she goes, I think it was Christy. And I go, what was her position? She's a general manager. What's her position? She's like, she's in sales. I go, sales? She's like, she's a sales manager. I go, oh, okay. And how about the gentleman that was next to her? And I go, what, security? What? Because she wasn't really, she's like, he's in maintenance. And then I was like, oh. And then inside, I'm like, this maintenance man who just seems so angry, just like unleashed on me and like ruined. I mean, for me, just like my entire day. I was just like, I was not in a good spot. So I say, I really need to speak to a manager, like somebody who is a manager here. And she's like, he's going to be in. We called him and he's going to be in shortly. And I'm like, okay. So then I wait. And he's in very shortly. So I'm just waiting in the lobby. And he shows up and he's like, oh, I go up there to talk to him. But obviously there's customers. He doesn't want to hear the sad story. So he's like, let's go outside. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go outside. Let's just chit-chat in the lobby. And then we go into the lobby. And I feel bad for him because he told me he had to come to work an hour early just to resolve our issue. But I'm just like, this isn't right. It should have been resolvable. And it should have been handled this way. It's not. So he just says, you know what? We have a lot of events and we're busy. And that's why we're booked. And I just reminded him, like, I don't mean it rude. Like, they're an event hotel. I go, well, you guys kind of host events. That's what you're like, hotels right next to the stadium and it's next to the baseball fields. Like, I would think personally, I didn't tell him that, but I'm like thinking to myself, that's why the hotel's here. So anyway, he was super nice. I think the gentleman's name was Vince or Vic. And nice gentleman, nothing but like very polite, soft-spoken, said he'd address it with his staff. And nobody should be treated the way I was treated, especially like hospitality even brings it to a new low. So I tell them my experience, and it's been really hard. My daughter's had so many like major medical issues, and she's such a great kid. And to be treated the way we're treated, I lost it. I started crying. I tried not to cry. I cried. And blood vessels. I was crying. I was in tears, and I did feel bad that he was like at the tip of my iceberg. It was just my tipping point. So shortly, my daughter comes down. She just reiterates the story. She's just checking on me. You still see like she has the tears in the eyes. I try to wash my face off downstairs and calm down before I go back up to the room, so my kids think I'm like more together. No, I'm not. And oh, I want to say, Vince said, no problem, you can stay. Don't worry about it, you have the room. So all right, so I'm not leaving the hotel. So I'm just sitting there trying to recoup, and the maintenance man did the right thing. He did walk up to me to apologize, but then I just said, okay, thank you. And then he just wouldn't leave. He just stood there. And I'm just like, okay, well, then I'm going to say, like, you're really, like, you shouldn't have said we're trespassing. You're going to call the police. You really scared my daughter. It wasn't right. And then he starts getting defensive. And I'm just like, okay, I accept your apology. You just, like, leave. Like, he's being defensive. And I'm like, apologize and leave. I mean, I do respect that he apologized. So anyway, go back upstairs. We're all like in disbelief. My daughter's friend is just like, she's flabbergasted. I'm just like, my other daughter's like, wow, you need a wine cooler. And I go, yeah, I do. And I'm drinking this wine cooler, and I'm crying and I'm laughing because I just kind of like, I can't hold it back in. I'm just like, this has been way too much. And I'm so thrilled to go to the concert though, but it's been way too much. And then I start like laughing, crying at the maintenance man and the sales coordinator at the Holiday Inn. Really broke me after all the medical things and all the hurdles that our family has been through. It has been like mind numbing. And this is when I just kind of just had my tipping point. And I just can't believe like how rude they were. Anyway, long story short, Vince did a great job. Completely respectful. And I just wanted my voice to be heard. So I hope it's heard.